Many of us have a very emotional reaction to politics, and I will freely admit from personal experience that it's really easy to fall into the negativity bias trap, where we use our past negative experiences and assume future situations will be the same. That's why I'm so against Conservatives forming government in Canada. My past experience tells me that they aren't all that interested in making life easier for those in society that need help the most. But I'm trying to fight that negativity bias. I want to be an optimist and believe that maybe it won't be so bad having Pierre Poilievre as our Prime Minister in Canada. So, let's have a realistic look at what life in Canada will probably be like under a Conservative rule. Right, so Pierre Poilievre loves catchy little three-word slogans and has promised us all that he'll axe the tax, fix the budget, build the homes and stop the crime. I won't spend too much time on the axe the tax bit. Conservative supporters have swallowed the misinformation hook. It's futile trying to convince them that once the carbon tax and the rebate is eliminated, they'll actually have less money in their pocket, but the price of everything will stay just as high as it is now. That one is a lost cause. Let's move on. Build the homes? Poilievre will cancel the Liberals' current approach and replace it with what he says is a far superior Conservative plan. Will that magically speed up the development of more affordable housing? Not likely. The Conservative plan will make no more or less difference than the Liberal plan. And I'll also mention one of Poilievre's slogans from the past that he doesn't use anymore: just inflation. For all Poilievre's yelling about inflation and making it seem like it was all Trudeau's fault and that only Poilievre could fix it, magically inflation has come down to the target level, not through some ultra-secret formula Poilievre whispered to the Prime Minister, but instead through the mechanisms that have always been used to tame inflation. The inflation experienced by Canada and every other developed nation on the planet was not the fault of Canada's Prime Minister, and as it turns out, Pierre Poilievre was not the only one that could fix it. I'm reasonably certain that inflation will go up and down while Poilievre is Prime Minister. Will it be his fault? Not likely. Will he do something super unusual to bring it back into line? Not likely. So what's my point with all this? It's entirely possible that Poilievre's reign as Prime Minister might not be any more or less consequential than Justin Trudeau's. That's sad in a way, not because I want Poilievre to reshape Canada in the Conservative image, but because I just don't think Poilievre has the leadership qualities it takes to really tackle the major issues we have in our country. He's just told us how bad everything is. Are you ready? Here's some of the major issues I think he should be focusing on. Our healthcare system, while being a provincial responsibility, has cracks in it and is under huge threat of excessive and haphazard privatization. The federal government could really take a major role in strengthening it, not by injecting more money, but by leading an important national conversation and actions about what we want as a society out of our system. Is Poilievre going to lead a national conversation about what Canadians want in our healthcare system? No, he's a populist. He's going to do what other populist leaders do. He's going to fix the crime and, whatever else makes his base happy. But I also don't think he's going to bring about a seismic shift in healthcare the other way either. He's not going to upend the system and give over to full privatization. I just don't think he cares about the system enough to do much of anything. How about climate change? Yes, I think it's the #1 issue of our lifetime, and I think Conservatives are going to do damage by essentially cancelling any meaningful action Canada is already taking. But do I honestly think Poilievre is going to usher in a drill baby drill approach and build 1 million kilometers of pipeline to the glee of Alberta and Saskatchewan? No. He sees the economics of that. He sees that Justin Trudeau tried to throw Alberta a bone and buy the Trans Mountain pipeline, and look where that got him. Alberta is going to eat any politician who doesn't devote 100% of their effort to expanding oil and methane gas production, because the leaders in Alberta don't have any other ideas for the province. Poilievre knows this, but he'll throw them a bone too. He'll make it easier for the oil and methane gas industry to grow. He won't be the slightest bit concerned that expansion of that industry will lead to our home being more polluted, and for at least the next 4 years, Canada will sit on the sidelines and do virtually nothing to fight climate change. When the government changes again after that, Canada will come back to the climate change fight. We will have wasted at least 4 precious years, and it'll be even more expensive to catch up on those lost 4 years, if that's even possible. It's sad, it's frustrating, but it's not as completely dire as some might think. Canada isn't the biggest polluter on the planet, and although I think every country should be devoting everything possible to stopping climate change, having a Conservative government in Canada do absolutely nothing isn't going to doom the planet much faster. One of Poilievre's slogans that I maybe could get behind is "fix the budget." In the latest economic statement in December 2024, we learned that there's a budget deficit of over $60 billion. That's a big number. And maybe economists will tell us that our debt to GDP ratio isn't that bad, but I gotta say, there's sticker shock value in that number. We have significant problems to solve in Canada and hard decisions to make. We need to spend money to address the problems we as a society decide should take priority, but we need to know where the money is coming from. And here's another example of me thinking that Poilievre doesn't have the leadership skills or strength to get the money we need from an obvious source: taxing the extremely wealthy. Most of us, right across the political spectrum, support taxing the rich. They can afford it. But do you think Poilievre has the leadership vision to do that? Make a decision that most Canadians support, but the most powerful few in the country would hate him for? No way. Not gonna happen. So instead, he'll do what Conservatives do. He'll lower the capital gains tax to benefit the wealthy. He'll cut programs that disproportionately impact the most vulnerable in society. He'll likely cut income taxes too, making you feel better that you've got a few more bucks in your pocket, while he's also cutting programs that you yourself may rely on. So you'll actually be worse off. Tax cuts cost the government money through decreased revenue that won't in any way help rein in that huge budget deficit. We need a government that has the strength to say no to things that their base thinks they need. A tax cut of any kind is one of those things. But hey, if he wants to show he's a tax cutter, Poilievre could lower taxes for low and low middle income earners and raise it for those in higher tax brackets. Not going to happen. Ultimately, what you hope for is that some of the good things that one government does survives the next government that takes over. In the end, I'm optimistic that a Conservative government won't be a complete disaster, and I keep in mind that Pierre Poilievre won't always be Prime Minister. Hey, we survived 9 painful years of Stephen Harper, and were able to fix some of his damage. One day, hopefully in a little over 4 years from now, Poilievre will be defeated, and we can take whatever teeny tiny amount of good the Conservative government has done, keep that, and fix the things they've damaged. In fact, this is likely the same thing Conservatives are saying right now about Justin Trudeau's government. Do I think Canada is marginally better because of Justin Trudeau's time as Prime Minister? Yes, I do. Do I think Canada will be marginally worse at the end of Pierre Poilievre's? Absolutely. I just don't think it's going to be the Mount St. Helens of political disasters that some are making it out to be. It's going to be painful watching the most vulnerable in Canadian society suffer more under a Conservative government than they have under a Liberal government, but just like Justin Trudeau's haters are doing now, I celebrate that Pierre Poilievre won't be around forever. And I'm optimistic that when he's gone, Canada will still be a strong, independent nation that may finally be ready to elect a leader with the strength and skill and vision to really tackle our biggest problems. Until then, we'll have Poilievre.